Good morning, everybody. Welcome you to our session today. And I'm sure to you that most of you really expect this session because I would say part 2 and IELTS speaking test is one of the key things. It is considered as the core of the whole speaking test because normally after part 2, basically that the examiner will have some kind of band score, the points for you. Just give me a second. Okay, guys, just give me 1 minute. Okay, guys, I'm back to all of you guys. I have to say that most of the time I will speak English to you because that is the key thing for the lessons, for the session today. I really want to ask you for any kind of feedback. If you can understand my English or not, or you really want me to speak Vietnamese to you right at the beginning. So could we have a little chit chat in the chat box in order to understand about what you really wish to. So guys, could you give me a signal into the chat box to be sure that you can understand my English, because I'm trying to use the basic, the simple English, and plus the paraphrasing. I don't want to use Vietnamese because, to be honest, I have to tell you the truth that we have to paraphrase the English word. And that is the best way for us to study English and get the higher band score rather than trying to use 1 or 2 keywords. I will tell you why paraphrasing is really, really important for most of you when you take the exam.
I refer you to use English for the whole session.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. And I'm sure to you, I don't try to use a lot of big words because the key things today is that the key thing for the session today is that we have to use the basic, the simple English in order to get the higher band score, not the academic words or some kind of big words. So I will keep speaking English from now on. And if you do have any problem, you can text me a message into the chat box so that I will maybe stop or pause and then I will explain something to you. Of course, in English first. Okay. A lot of people send a question to me asking a lot of problems about part 2. The key thing for all of you is that most of you are a little panic when you pick up the cue card from the examiner. Some of you seem to be quite confused in order to speak part 2, because you say, gosh, I have no idea. I have never experienced that in my life. Or I'm a bit overwhelmed at the moment. A lot of ideas just coming at the same time, and I couldn't pick up what exactly I should talk to the examiner. So today I'm trying to clarify a lot of ideas for all of you guys, and trying to answer a lot of questions from you as much as possible in order to help you, number 1, overcome the challenges in part 2. Number 2, try to confirm what is the best way, the route for us to walk on in order to achieve the band score. And let's clarify some of the myths about part 2 that scare you a lot. And the main topic of the session today is about a real person, the real story. What does that mean? Most of the time, the topic in part 2 always asks you to describe something from your life, from your personal experiences. So that means the key thing, the first thing that I need from you is the story. Of course, that story must be as real as possible, as practical as possible. But that doesn't mean you cannot make it up. But I always want you to stick with your story. Okay, so if you look at the pictures on my screen now, you can understand the main topic of the talk today. Look at the pictures. You got a lot of postcards to show you about the places, the building, the architectures, the nightlife, the city skyline. So I'm sure to you that each of you travel a lot in your life, and you got some kind of albums of the photos, the pictures, and I want you to prepare that kind of album for yourself. So let me go straight into the first part. We are going to say about a holiday, one of the best holidays ever in our life. Ask yourself, do you have such a best holiday? Because when I ask my student about that one, most of you always say, oh, I do have holidays, but I'm not quite sure if it's the best or not. Some of you wouldn't think, oh, that is the best holiday ever. Just say, oh, it's just a common, a normal or popular holiday that I usually travel with friends or families to somewhere. And the key thing is that we just want to relax. But after the lesson today, after the session today, I want you to look back. Actually, every moment you experience is also valuable in your life. Try to take the advantage of each of the experiences to make it a story. For what? Number 1, it's the best way for you to break the ice with the other people. You know, break the ice? Break the ice. For example, when I see you, I really want to talk to you. But the problem is that it seems to me there will be a layer of ice between us. It's too cold that I cannot talk to you. So, if I really want to communicate with you, the only thing is that I have to use a hammer and break the ice in order to destroy the ice wall between us so that I can talk to you. I can strike up a friendship. So that's the good thing. I'm sure to you that every of you really want to make friends in your life. If you ever watched TED Talk, friendship or friends will play a key part in your life. Let's imagine one day if you don't have any friends. Okay, so I will give you, let's say, about 5 to 15 seconds to think about the best holiday ever in your life that you experience. But I want you to think about the places. What could be the amazing places for you to travel to, or you ever traveled to? I really want you to visualize, imagine, remember some of the great pictures from your last holiday. Where were you? I guess that when it comes to holidays or vacation or travel, there are a lot of places. There are a wide variety of places for you to think about or to travel to. The people who live in a city love to go to the sea town, go to the beach. They really want to go to the highland. For what? The key thing is that when they live in a city, the weather and the climate is always hot and humid all year round. So they really want to travel in order to escape the hustle and bustle of the city, in order to find out somewhere with the peaceful and quiet atmosphere. And then they can relax, they can enjoy themselves. For those who were born in some of the cold climate region, they tend to go to somewhere a little warmer, like the beach or like the big city, to try the noisy and busy atmosphere of the city. So basically, we do have a lot of places. From my travel list, the top one will be the highland. I mean the mountainous area. The second one on the list is the sea town. It could be somewhere in the middle of Vietnam. The next one, it could be the countryside. It is the place where you will learn more about a simple life. And I believe the simpler, the better. And you too, one day you will think that, you will see that. And the fourth on the list, it could be another big city. Actually, that could be a city in a foreign country, not in our country. But recently, most of the young people, you really want to go on a venture, like go hiking, go trekking, or go on a picnic in the forest, for example, or go camping. But whatever the place you go to, all I need you to do is that only one best holiday. But in that kind of holidays, you have to think again that you did a lot of crazy things there. You could not tell me, oh, I didn't do anything on my vacation. I just stayed most of the time in a hotel and the resort and try to enjoy the refreshment or luxury services. I didn't want to expose myself to a lot of outdoor activities. In that case, I couldn't say a word to you. Okay, so I want you to think about a holiday, including as many activities as possible. It could be something crazy. That's fine, because we really want to go wild. We really want to unwind. We really want to. We really want to let our hair down. So, think about holiday first. And now, in the first part, based on a question that most of you sent to me, that you say, we do have a lot of problems when we jump to part 2. Because in that part, we become a soloist, a single performers on the stage. And that makes you or make anyone on the stage becomes clumsy. I mean, you don't know what to do. Embarrassed, confused. Basically, that you just want to dig a hole on the ground and jump into and hide yourself. But what could be the problem? Look at this one. I will show you the icon first. So the problem here could be, look at the first icon. It could be a lot of ideas coming up at the same times. And you don't know which one you should speak first. Or the second one, the second icon. The second icons, you got a big question mark here. So you always ask yourself, gosh, what should I say now? What is the best experience that I want to share with the examiner? Is it possible for me to try to make up a story? It's not real. I just want to get through part 2. It's all right if you are creative, but I'm sure to you, most of you are not. Even me, I'm not creative enough. The next one, ask yourself, my gosh, what should I do? What is the order that I should speak? I should follow the question from the cue card, or I should think about my own story, or I can do something extraordinary, I mean, different from the other people. All right. There's a lot of questions in your mind now. And you wonder, what could be the best way in order to gain the victory after part 2? Because usually, I told you, part 2 is considered as the core of the test. Usually after part 2, the examiner will have the rough ideas about your band score. I got this point from the IELTS teacher trainer from BC. So usually after part 2, your life, your destiny is decided. And part 3 is just the thing that they really want to challenge you to reconfirm that the band score that he or she gave you in part 2 really relevant, suitable, or proper enough. And I have to share you one thing. Usually in part 3, some of my students face the extremely difficult question that makes him confused. He did very well in part 1 and part 2, and he faced the most challenging question in part 3. But I strongly believe the most difficult question in part 3 will be the good signal for you, because it seems to me that you did well in part 1 and part 2, and part 3, they gave you the difficult question to confirm, yeah, he's good, or he's lucky. If he could pass the question in part 3, that means he's good enough. That means that's his real skill. Otherwise, your band score will be lower. But I will talk to you about part 3 later. Today, most of the time we mention on part 2, and we have to figure out what could be the common problems and how we can figure out the best solution to deal with that in a simple way. Now let's look at a common question to see if you have any of this or not.
Hi, teacher. Can I say something?
Sure.
I know that the one of the problem is that we have an idea, but we don't know how to link that idea that is logical, and you know that and we don't know how to make the maybe the sentence is longer, because you know when we say one sentence and the next sentence we have to think about it, and I think that we have to speak. I think we have to speak continually. Yeah, we cannot break.
Hold on. I got your point. Let me give you one example about the session today. What I'm gonna do today is that I will show you the recipe. Let's look at the cooking, for example, like a cooking class. I will show you the recipe. I will try to give you some main ingredients. I will tell you the step, what you do first, how to prepare, what to do first, next step, and later step, and after that, and final step. And if you can cook with my guidance and instruction, you should get the kind of food that could be eatable, edible. Edible. But if you know exactly how to add in a little more specific or special ingredient like herbal plants to make it a taste richer, or you can add a little more sauce, your homemade sauce, for example. That means the food now will be upgraded into the next level. So I will give you the main ingredient. I will show you what to do. If you can cook with my way, you get the good food enough. You want to make it better, excellent, upmarket, you need to add more by yourself. And it takes you time to do that. But first of all, let me point out, is that some of the common unpopular problems that you have to face when you comes to part 2. Look at this one. Number 1, some of you says, gosh, I got the empty mind when I pick up the cue card, because that seemed to be a little strange. I never been there. I never done that. I never experienced that. What should I do? Empty mind, no experience. That's number 1. Okay. So, how many of you ever experienced this one? Yeah.
It's me, teacher.
Yeah, just show your hands and I'll know that.
Because you know that I get into the room, I feel nervous, and my mind is empty. I don't know what I should say.
Exactly.
What should I say? Yeah.
What I should say. I don't know what
I should say.
Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys with the empty mind and no experience. So that's not a big deal, right? I mean, the other guys seem to have ideas. All right. So let's move on to the second problem to see if you can find yourself there. But I'm not quite sure about this one. Sometimes when you pick up the cue card, you are so excited because, oh, that is the thing that I ever experienced, but I do have a lot of things. My gosh, what should I say them? What is the best idea that I should share with the examiner? I should choose this? I should choose that? Or I should cover all of them? So what is the best idea? That could be the number 2. But I can see that you don't have to face this one because you don't have a lot of ideas. So that's not the case, right? Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, this one. You say, you pick up the cue card and you say, yeah, that's topic sounds familiar to you. But my God, I do have the general vocabulary to describe. But is it enough for me? I need to find out more academic words. I need to create more complicated words, longer phrases, better words, excellent ones, in order to put into part 2, in order to make a very deep impression on the examiner. Do we need that? Now, show your hands if you see that you got a problem with vocabulary when you describe part 2. You think, gosh, I'm sure to you that I don't have enough vocabulary to describe about this topic, and though I do have the story. So how many of you don't have the vocabulary, don't have sufficient vocabulary? So I got 1, 2, not many. All right, not a big deal. So that means the rest of you do have vocabulary to describe. So let's come to the next one. Now, this is a key thing. Your problem is that when you pick up the cue card and they ask you to describe a story in the past, the thing is that most of you still remember what you should say. Simple past should be dominant. Unfortunately, most of you didn't practice. Therefore, the first few sentences would be in simple past, and the rest of the talk is in simple present tense. So based on the assessment criteria, you might lose from 1 band score up to 1.5 band score in terms of grammatical range and accuracy. You forget. Now, there are 2 things about the tenses. Number 1, even the topic asks you to describe a story in the past, but that doesn't mean we use all of the sentences in simple past. That's not the case. We have to show to the examiner a wide range of vocabulary, the wide range of grammatical points, and we have to be sure that we have to use them correctly. Most of you think we have 12 tenses in English, so we have to use maybe 2/3 of them. In fact, no, we don't need that. We just use 2, 3, maximum 4 tenses will be enough in part 2. But the key thing is that Most of you try to translate from Vietnamese into English. So I'm sure to you that you forget about the tenses because you focus on vocabulary, how to translate, put them into the correct position in a sentence, and then you didn't pay attention to the tenses. And remember, tenses would be attached with the pronunciation. You describe something in the past. You remember a simple past. But when you pronounce the word, the verb in simple past, you forgot how to pronounce the ending sounds. So, after all, you failed. But no worry. In my recipe, I have already prepared some kind of tenses for you. But I need you to remember that. I'll show you later. Let's analyze the other kind of mistake. Yeah, it is very similar to number 4 that I just mentioned. Apart from the tenses, you have to use a wide range of structures and accuracy as well. Someone just asked me how I control the time when speaking. I know about this one. That's the reason why I will try to help you to limit yourself in the number of sentences, but we still guarantee about vocabulary, tenses, and even structure. No worry about that. I will show you later. So, what could be the wide range of structure? I forgot. It should be wide range of structure here. Sorry, wide range of structures.
I think that we need to use as many structure as possible.
Yeah, that sounds to be a good one, but how many would be enough?
I think maybe 4 or 5 is enough.
But the problem is that how can you control the kind of structure and when you need to use that? Because from my experience, when I ask most of you about the structures, and like passive voice or relative clause, I don't want you to make a sentence first, but I ask you when you need to use passive voice when we do have active voice. So some of you couldn't tell me. You just say, oh, we use passive voice because we want to emphasize the object. You know, in speaking, it's very easy. Even you can make an active voice sentence, but if you want to emphasize on something, make the word stronger, lower your voice, stretch the word, and people will understand that you are focusing on that keyword. We don't need to use any kind of structure. It's different from writing. So, how many kind of structures that we should use? Passive voice, relative clause, if clause, comparison. So which one? And do we need to use all of them? Of course, if you can use all of them in one story, that's the perfect one. But I'm sure to you that you can't choose. And sometimes it is not necessary for us to use all of them at the same time. But at least I will highlight some of the key things for you to use in terms of structure. I will include that into my recipe later as well. Now, let's move on to the next one. This is the key thing. Some of the students ask me when I pick up the cue card, should I follow the questions from the cue card? Or should I think about my own story? Now, raise your hand. If you follow the first option, you will follow the order of the question in the cue card and take turn answer all of them until the end. So how many of you, could you raise your hand to show me that you follow option number 1? Follow the question from the cue card and take turns to answer them. So none of you. So that means you still follow the ideas that you think about your own story, and you try to speak about your own story. Yeah, the good thing is that if you can have your own story, that's the perfect one. But there would be one thing you need to pay attention to. If your story cannot cover most of the question in the cue card, you will be considered off the track, off the topic. So even you can show a lot of grammar, structures, good vocabulary, but eventually you cannot achieve the high band score because you are saying what you have, but you didn't answer what the examiner needed to hear from you. So there are both pros and cons for each one. And one more thing when you say about a cue card. Yang gave me a question. My ideas may match the question, but they may not follow the order. That's going to be fine, as long as you can cover all the questions. The minor problem when you follow the cue cards questions is that you can answer all the questions. But sometimes you are quite confused when you want to move from question number 1 to question number 2. And you don't use any kind of linking device or linking devices to connect them. So if that is the case, you might lose the point called coherence in speaking as criteria assessment example. So what is the best way? Follow the question from the cue card or make up our own story, but we have to be sure we need to cover most of the ideas that the examiner needs us to do. That will come to the practices, and then we will do that. I will show you how I can do that. The next one, this is not a big deal, but it affects your pronunciation. Some of you seem to have a lot of ideas. You can speak fluently, coherently, but you don't change your voice. You use the same tone of voice. For example, today I would like to talk to you about a beautiful place that I have ever traveled to in my life. I think I should talk to you about Nha Trang City or Da Nang City. I travel there, and so on. That voice seemed to be boring, tedious, because it is monotonous. Mono means single, and tonus means tone. You use only one single tone in order to respond to the question. And that leads to one situation. The examiner may think that you are trying to remember something that you had learned by heart, And luckily that you picked up the right topic. And now you could say it again fluently, coherently. But no pause, no stop in a natural voice. And people think, yeah, you're learning by heart. So there's no point for me to give you a good score. I hope that would not be the case for you. You need to change your voice. And a lot of students ask me at the beginning that when I speak, how can I change my voice? How can I use the rising tones, the falling tones? How can I practice to have good voice? We do have a lot of techniques and tips to do that, as long as you spend time, because that is completely challenging. I remember when I was young, I practiced with my father. And most of the time, I cried because I couldn't speak with the same voice that he forced me to do. So, no pain, no gain. You couldn't ask me, I really want to achieve the excellent voice, but I'm sorry, I don't have time for it. It is exactly the same like when you do business. You put your money into one business because you think that will make some more profit for you. But you never pay attention to what the business has been doing. You never stop by the company to have a look at their book records, for example. You didn't check everything, every activity in the company. That after several months, when you come back, you think, I will have a profit. No. Who knows that after several months, when you go back to the company, it had already gone bankrupt before you arrived. What I mean here is that you want to make the profit, but you didn't spend time to control that. So how could you achieve the best outcome? Pronunciation is the same. It's more challenging. It takes you times and some kind of motivation. One minor thing that I want to share with you about pronunciation. Find a partner. Find a good partner who can motivate you, encourage you, correct you, and exchange the idea with you. Because with a partner, you are free to show your emotion, your sentiment, your feeling. Otherwise, when you show the feeling to the other people, they say, oh, guys, cut the crap. You just want to exaggerate the feeling. It's not true. It's not real. And Vietnamese people, we are afraid of that. We don't want to show our emotion in front of the public to the other people, because we are afraid that people will say, oh, you just exaggerate. You want to show off. It's not that so serious like that. So my advice for pronunciation, find a partner. Find a good partner. Okay, so pronunciation is also the very important thing in speaking part 2. Yeah, it's very similar to number 7. You have the ideas, you have vocabulary to speak about a topic, but you don't change your voice. You don't pause. You don't stop sometimes. So it sounds like you are telling story by heart, because you didn't try to use some of the feelers like, well, you see, what I want to mention here is that, to be honest, for example, we need those words in our speaking part 2. So, but again, you should not worry so much about the feelers or linking words or phrases, because I have already added in my recipe for you. Okay. Now, It's very similar to number 7. Last one, as I told you, you follow your own story, and sometimes you say the story out of the topic. It is not exactly what the examiner needed to hear. So these are some of the basic problems that I can figure out. I guess that you may face more challenges in your speaking skill, but you can ask me later. So we have a problems here. So what could be the best solution to deal with that? So the only thing is that we have to go back into the criteria, the assessment criteria. I'm sure to you that everybody knows about 4 criteria in the speaking test. Number 1, fluency and coherence. This is the key thing that you have to pay attention to, guys. It's very similar as in part 1. I asked a lot of students. When I asked them questions, they could respond to me immediately without any pause, without any stop. And that is good. You can achieve what is called fluency. However, when you listen to the answers carefully, the ideas are not connected. So that means in the first criteria, you just achieve half of the band score. We need to improve our coherence as well. And how? As I told you, we need to use a filler, the linking devices. And sometimes we need to pause or stop naturally. Don't try to pretend about that one. And again, it requires you to practice a lot. Listen to a lot of story, conversations, and see people pause and stop, and people link the ideas. But in part 2, I already created the linking devices for you. You need to remember only. And the food can be more delicious, savory, rich, depends on you to add more ingredients. So that is our first criteria, fluency and coherence. Pay attention to the linking words, linking devices, fillers, pause and stop. The second thing, lexical resource. Most of you says, my gosh, I don't have enough vocabulary to describe about the topic. It's very similar as when you say that. You really want to achieve high band score, but you say, I don't have enough vocabulary to describe. Or I just have little vocabulary to describe. It is very similar to doing a business. You ask me, sir, I just have little money, little capital. Can you help me to make huge profits? So guys, if I ask you to do me a favor, I just have small capital, that means money, small amount of money, little money. And I know that you are a great entrepreneur, investor, and I come to you and say, can you turn my small capital to make a huge profit like everybody else? Can you do that? Guys, can you help me to do that? I'm sure it's a challenging question. Small capital, huge profit. Very similar to a small amount of vocabulary. You ask me to help you to achieve very high band score, like 7 point or 7.5. I would follow Tom Cruise in order to play some kind of roles in Mission Impossible, if he allows me to join into the movie. And after that, I will get back to you. Yes, I can help you to do that. Is that right? Obviously, if you say, I have just little vocabulary and I want to get high band score, it is impossible. Now, but that doesn't mean I have no solution for you. You have small vocabulary. At first, you have to accept this band score really match with your vocabulary. Another time you need a tutor. You need someone, an instructor, a guide, in order to help you, to give you from your story, from your real experience. They will try to contribute, make some more contribution to your vocabulary. And the same story, but more vocabulary. You say that again. And then your band score will be increased. But this is not the thing that you expect. So you need to change some of the words here. Gain more phrasal verb, collocation, idioms, proverbs. I mean, it takes you time to get more words, and then you can upgrade yourself to the expected band score. So that's why find a good tutor who can guide you to go on the right track, show you the route. You are alone. You cannot do it. Okay, so I'm happy to share my route to you, and then your choice. If you think you can do it by yourself, great. But you must be very determined. Determined means when you decide to do something, you will stick with that. You don't change your mind. You follow until the end of the road. You try to do it until you achieve the outcome. So your determination must be big enough to help you to improve. If you don't have such a determination, find someone who got that one. Follow him. Follow his footsteps. Take after him. Take after, that means try to be similar to him. And then you will be there. That means you can achieve what you really want to. All right, so that is about the lexical resources. You need to improve them day after day. But you should be pleased with what you have and develop from that background or foundation. You need someone to help you to build up. The next one is a grammatical range and accuracy. As I told you, that we don't need to use all kind of grammatical points. But the key thing is that whenever we use, it must be correct. And it must be the idea that we really want to express. But you don't need to worry about number 3. I can help you to do that right in this session. I can help you with that. But with number 2, you have to help yourself. Number 1, I can help you. Number 3, I can help you. But number 2, you do it by yourself. And even number 4, I show you the way. You have to do it by yourself. I cannot help you with this. So, based on this, we need exactly what we have and what we don't have, so that we need to correct ourselves. Again, Number one, we need more linking words and phrases. We need feelers like, well, I guess, I think, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. It's just the other way that you want to say. Number two, we need to improve from one topic to another topic. Number three, I can show you what kind of tenses, what could be the structures that you need to use in part two, so that when you show all of them, the examiner will have no choice but give you the proper band score. No less than 6 points. And the last one is the key thing. You need to improve them. All right, so what I want to emphasize here, and you look at the 4 criteria: fluency, coherence, lexical resource, pronunciation. That means they don't judge you, they don't mark you based on the ideas. They base on your techniques, your ability, your skills. So no great ideas needed. We don't need great ideas. We just need our personal experiences, something close to our life, something real from our observation. But that doesn't mean we don't need the ideas. We need to use the personal ideas and experiences. They are necessary to tell an intriguing, convincing, and coherent story. Because if that is your own story, you know exactly what happened first, next, then, later, after that. And when you can tell that one, you achieve what is called fluency and a little bit about coherence. What I'm going to do for you, I try to use some of the link to connect them together for you. So I need your real story. I need your experiences. You say something, but you have an empty mind, no story, no experience. I'm sure to you that it is mission impossible. Except you are a very creative person. But tell me, how many of you here will be creative enough in order to make up your own story? None. All right, so what is the best way for me to do that for you? How can we deal with the story? Okay. Now, in order to reconfirm that you can achieve the band score 6 to 7 easily, I need to go back into the assessment right now for you. Now, if you look at the first criteria, fluency and coherence, speaks at length. That means you'll usually say, keep speaking, speak continuously.
Speak continuously.
And then they still need you to hesitate. That means you have to use the fillers. Hesitation at times. I'm sure to you that from now on, you should be familiar yourself with some of the keywords, some of the fillers like, you see, as far as you can see, example. I mean, for example, what I mean here is that, so you should be familiar with that. Watch more videos, movies, if possible. And use a range connectives, I mean the linking word and phrases that as I told you. Yes, if you can do that, the expected band score is in your hand. But it's a piece of cake, I'm sure to you. I already set up everything for you. It's only the second thing, lexical resource. Look at this one. They don't ask you to use a lot of great words. You just need to use the words that when people listen to you, people will realize, oh, you speak about travel. You speak about vacation. You can say something and make people think, oh, it seems like he says about a business trip. It's not about a vacation in order to relax or indulge himself or herself in 5-star services, for example. But again, in order to achieve this band score, you must use some less common idiomatic vocabulary and collocation. What I mean here is that you have to use, you must know how to use some phrasal verbs. When you describe about a person, saying about a relationship, you have to use some of the phrasal verbs like make up the friendship again, for example, get along well with, get on well with, take after someone, look up to, for example, mean respect someone, look up to someone, respect someone, or look down on someone, mean disrespect someone. You have to use some phrasal verb like that. You have to use some idioms like he really makes my day, for example. You know, when my friend and I achieved something together, we were on a cloud nine. To be on a cloud nine, I mean, you were extremely happy or excited about something. I don't want you to use a lot of them, but 1, 2, or maximum 3 of them will be enough. So I mean, from now on, when you learn about one specific topic in IELTS for part 2, you need to accumulate the suitable phrasal verb, topical vocabulary, some idioms and proverbs. But the key thing is that you have to use the correct collocation. I mean, one word must go with the other word in a phrase. So I also show you that one in part 2 for you to practice. And you see, paraphrasing. This is the one key thing that I want you to do. Even you can learn by yourself, or you learn with another tutor or any teacher or trainer, for example. Why paraphrase is more effective than one single word? I'm sure to you that when you speak English, you still have a problem when you try to translate from Vietnamese into English word. But remember, and let me show you one thing. I'm sure that most of you still translate a lot. That's fine. We cannot stop that. But you should realize one thing. Your Vietnamese language is at this level. Your English language is at this level. Lower, much lower than your Vietnamese language capability. So that means when you think about the Vietnamese language here, you want to transfer into English, and you can see over here is empty. So that means you cannot find out the keywords to translate. And if you cannot translate, you stop, you pause, you get stuck, and then you feel embarrassed, and then you failed. So what is the best way for you to do translation from Vietnamese into English? When you want to do that, I want you to lower your Vietnamese language capability to as close as to your English. How? I mean, you have to use the Vietnamese language to speak to the Vietnamese student at the age in the middle school, not in the high school. You have to speak some kind of Vietnamese language in such a way that the student there, they will understand exactly what you say. And at the time, when you translate into English, I do believe that you have the relevant or the suitable English word for you to translate. But I'm sure to you, that is not always the case that you can translate. You can do translation. So the best way for you is that paraphrasing. When we have one Vietnamese word, very advanced level, at the very advanced level, we cannot translate into English. So we need to paraphrase it. And what is the advantage of paraphrasing? Number one, you will have a chance to show to the examiner that you can use a wider range of vocabulary to speak about one word. Instead of saying one word, you use more words to show your flexibility to use the English word. And they appreciate that. They highly appreciate what you do. That's number one. You use many words instead of one word. And show you know how to use vocabulary. Number two, when you paraphrase, you tend to use relative clause to provide more details, to verify information, to give the definition to the word that you really want to say. So apart from using a lot of words, you can show them the ability to use one grammatical point. So instead of saying one word, paraphrasing can help you to achieve 2 points by using vocabulary, a wide range of vocabulary, and grammar. So I always ask my students to speak English to me in a class. And I know that they will get stuck most of the time. But when they get stuck, I ask them, don't stop there. Keep moving on. Keep talking about what you say. You can say another way. You can use any other word, relevance, synonyms, relative clause to show. It sounds much, much better than only one word. And last but not least, I have to tell you about this one in IELTS speaking test. When you use paraphrasing instead of one word, you will kill a little more time in the exam. You will, instead of answering like a lot of minutes, now if you paraphrase, you can reduce the time and reduce the number of the question that the examiner may ask you. You make only one word, the examiner will ask you more questions. You paraphrase, you kill the time, examiner will ask you fewer questions. And that is your advantage. So paraphrasing is the thing that I need you to improve from now on. That is why you don't need to use big words. Now, let me ask you, until now, I don't speak Vietnamese to you. I just want to confirm, give me the percentage. How many percent that you could understand me until now? Show me in a chat box.
80%, sir.
80%, okay. One say 80%. What about the others? 90%, okay.
That is about 90%.
Great. 70%, still good. 85%, 90, 99, 70. So you can see that I can speak English to you all the time. That means I don't need to use any big word or great words to express my idea. So I really want to transfer this kind of confidence to you. We can face any kind of topics in our life. And we don't care about vocabulary too much. We care because it can help us to get at least 7 points. If we don't care much about vocabulary, you can get 6 points, at least. But because our purpose is about 7 points and over, so we should care a little more about vocabulary, but it's not so serious. We don't need to use speak word. We use few phrasal verb, good collocation, idioms. And most of the time, we use the general vocabulary. What for what? To achieve what is called the fluency and coherence. Because the words are so familiar to us, we know exactly how to speak about that without mistake. Or we can mitigate a mistake. We can reduce the number of the mistake, the minor mistake. And then we can achieve the band score. So for lexical, I think you should have more confidence on yourself. And that's the thing I want to talk to you. Grammar, you don't need about this one. I'll take care of that for you. Of course, we need to use a range of complex structures like relative clause, comparison, if possible, simple, compound, complex sentences. Sometimes we need to use the if clause to show the assumptions or a kind of hypothesis. It means something that you imagine it may happen. But one thing, okay, I need to confirm one thing because I need that in my recipe from all of you guys. And I'm not quite sure if most of you ever use or known clearly about this one. That is called the noun clause. Now, I just want to ask, I need you to raise your hands here to tell me, do you know about noun clause and how to use the noun clause? Now, my question is, do you know about a noun clause and how to use it? Show your hands. Okay, one. I'm sure that fact you should know that.
Me, sir. Teacher, I don't know how to raise my hand.
You got the hands there. Okay.
Yeah. I see it.
All right, so 3 of you. How about the others? Do you know anything about a noun clause? Because noun clause will be one of the key points in my recipe. It could be considered as the spotlight, the highlighted point from my recipe to you. So how about the others? Okay. So that could be a problem to me when I show you this one. Noun clause. I knew, however, I'm not good to use. Lang, you said that I'm not good to use. That means you are not a good person. That means you are not good enough to use that kind of grammar. Is that what you mean? I'm not good to use. No, you're wrong. If you say, I am not good to use it, that means you're wrong. That means you are a bad person. You don't have the right to use that. I guess that what you mean is I'm not good at using it. Lang Nguyen, is that what you mean? or I'm not good to use it. Okay, be careful. You should not make the minor mistake like that if you really want to achieve the band score 7. Okay, let me make it quick about noun clause to you. I usually use the noun clause to emphasize on the reason. Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. We use the noun clause to make it longer, provide more information. But the key thing is that we want to emphasize on the key things we really want to speak to the other people. For example, I use the noun clause to you, but you didn't pay attention to. For example, I say, what I really want to highlight, the key point to you here is the usage of a wider range of structure, for example. Now, which one is the noun clause to you? The noun clause is this one. Why I say this is a noun clause? Number one, it is a subject. And the subject in English must be a noun. And you look at this structure. This noun has a structure of subject and verb and object. So in English, we call this is a clause. So combine them together, we call this is a noun clause. And we usually put it at the subject position to emphasize. What I really want to highlight, the key point to you here, or what I really want to highlight here, for example. You can use this one. What I want to highlight here, is the usage of the wider range of structure. So this is the noun clause. You can use another structure like, when I pick up the cue card, who I really want to mention here today is my best friend, for example. Who I really want to mention here is. So who I really want to mention here is the noun clause. Where I should pay a visit on my vacation should be Dallas City. So where I should be, that is a kind of noun clause as well. How people can do that is really amazing. So how people can do that is a noun clause. So we have to use them in order to emphasize, to show the reason why. Okay, so until now, how many more of you know a bit about noun clause and how to use it? Show your hand. Because before I move on to the next one, I need you to understand about a noun clause. So only one more person, 2 more. Not enough. Okay. I have to tell you in advance that in my recipe, the 2 key points that I use to achieve the grammatical points, that is about relative clause and noun clause. And relative clause and noun clause at the same time create the complex sentences. Not a simple one, not a compound one, but the complex sentences. And when the examiner hear that, he would have no reasons to reduce your band score because you already used them. You meet the criteria. You meet the requirement of using a wide range of grammatical points in your speaking part 2. We have to prepare something in such a way that the examiner will have no clue to reduce our band score less than 6. We put everything on a paper, show everything on a table for them to see, and they couldn't deny that. All right, so anybody, if you don't understand clearly about noun clause, you should get back to the grammar, ask your tutor, ask your teachers to explain more about that one. And it's good for you in writing as well, not only in speaking. All right, and the last one, I want to share with you the last one about the pronunciation so that you can be a little more confident about speaking skill. Okay, give me 1 second. I got a problem. I got a technical issues with my laptop. Okay, let's look at band score 7. Band score 7 pronunciation is somewhere between band 6 and band 8. Okay, if you look at band 6 first, use a range of pronunciation features with mixed control. So what I want you to do is that you need to pause sometimes. Sometimes you need to emphasize on something. Sometimes you need to exaggerate a word, like stretch the word. But don't try to show off. You don't need that. So in order to do that, you need to learn from some of the movies. They show you how to use some of the linking words effectively when you want to show the ideas. But you see that with band 7, they still accept you to use something and use some effective use of feature, but it is not sustained. That means sometimes you forget that. Sometimes you use it a little bit wrongly. But in overall, in order to get band 6, you must make yourself understood. By what? Ending sound. If you don't pronounce that, your English sounds very boring. For example, let me show you. Today I would like to talk to you about my hometown, and I really want to show you about what we have in our countryside. Basically, you can see that when you speak like that, you do have fluency and maybe coherence, but it's a monotonous voice without ending sound. Therefore, you fail to achieve the pronunciation criterion. You need to change your intonation. And you see that band 6, they still accept that sometimes you mispronounce, like you really want to say about the word Korea, you say carrier. You want to say about the word project, you say a project. You really want to say about the word like record, or you say record, for example. That should be fine, but some of them only. Okay? And now, in order to get over band 6, what should you do? You need more intonation, rising tones, falling tones. You need to link the sound. But the key thing is that there's one thing that I'm not quite sure you pay attention to or not. Most of you tend to speak word after word, but that's the wrong way. Because in English, we do have two kinds of words, contain words and function word. Contain words show you the meaning. Function word show you the structure. And sometimes they don't have any meaning. So that means there's no reason for you to emphasize on a function word. The native speaker, they try to slide on that. They try to put into the nasal sounds. They try to lower and then jump over to the next one to make the next word stronger, to show the meaning of the next words. So if you can do that, you need to, usually you hear, you are advised to speak in chunks, I mean in phrases, instead of single word. And in chunks, that doesn't mean we will read every word at the same tone. We need to highlight one word up, and the other words are unimportant or function word, we go down. For example, I always ask my student, what do I want to do in the future? What do I want to do in the future? What do I want to do? What do I want to do? What do I want to do in the future? They can understand right away, because they don't need to pick up every word from me. They just need to pick up what, do, and future. Because I emphasize what I want to do in the future. So you need to practice. And again, this is quite challenging. You need a tutor. You need a good partner who knows well about pronunciation to show you, practice with you, so you can mimic. I mean, you can copy the exact voice. Oh my God, for example. Oh dear. So that is the part that you need to improve. I'm sure to you that now you know exactly what you need for each of the criterion. You need to modify or accumulate for yourself from now on. Let's move on to the example. This is the key thing I want you to. A storyteller. You must be a good storyteller. In terms of ideas only, not in terms of great words or academic vocabulary or idioms or phrase work. Not yet. Let's take step by step to do that. All right? So, what's your story? Can you come up with any story about vacation? Now, that is what I need you to do. I need you to think about the great trip that you took last time, maybe 2 years ago. Because last 2 years we have been locked down so far, so we couldn't say anything about travel. But 2 years ago, you need to think about a vacation that you could have a lot of activity to describe. And what could be the activity should be included in your story. This is what I want you to do. Okay. Most of the time I need you to tell me about the activity on trip. So what do? Number one, this one. Can you guess what I want to tell you to do? With this picture, yeah, it's the Highland. That's the place I love. But what else? Trekking? I'm not quite sure this is a trekking. I think it's about meeting the local people. I want you, on your trip, you should try to interact, communicate, socialize with the local people to learn more about everything, about their simple lifestyle, the cultural aspect, the customs, the festival, the food and drinks, everything that you can learn from, and you can find out that they do have some kind of great personality or behavior different from us. And who knows that you really want to imitate or mimic. So that is one, local people. Number two, what could it be? It could be about
Food.
no, yeah, it's about food, but no, you can find out this kind of food in that area only.
Cuisine.
It could be cuisines, it could be the food, or what I want to mention here is the specialities. The specialties. Each area will offer you a special kind of food and cuisine we call specialty. When you get there, you need to sample them. Sample the speciality. I mean, just try them and see how you feel. Okay, that's the thing I want you to include into your trip, into your story. The next one, it could be about for a selfie, to have great photos to post on the Facebook or Instagram, for example. So what I want to mention here is about a landscape, the sightseeing, the scenery, the gorgeous view, for example, should be included into your story. The next one, I'm sure to you that you on your trip you will go past or you visit to some of the specific or historic buildings. It could be the museums, the gallery, the palace, for example, the temples, the pagodas, and they should be included in your story as well. Why? Because in part 2, we will describe a building that you ever visited. So that could be the one on your trip. The next one that I want you to describe, it could be the festival. If you go to the last city at the end of the year, you enjoy the flower festival. You go to Buenos City, you can enjoy and Bảo City, you can have the tea and coffee festival. If you go back to Mekong Delta in the south of Vietnam, you can enjoy the local cuisine festival. Things like that. There must be. You need to find out more information about festival because that is one of the topic in part 2 as well. And the last one I want you to do. So what does the picture show you? Sitting around the fire with a bunch of friends, telling the story, singing, chatting all night longs, telling old trivias. I'm not about activity. I want to mention here is about the good memory that still linger, even stayed in your mind. So it's about memory. So basically, this could be the topic in part 2. Describe about the people, describe about the view or the scenery or the landscape where you pay a visit to, describe about food and drinks, describe about the buildings, describe about the festival, and describe about the good and bad memories there. So you need to find a story to include all of them. Or you can include 2 trips into one story. But you need to be flexible to match them in one story. Now, due to the limited time of today that I cannot show you a lot of things, but I want you to show the first formula only. Now, this is the frame, the templates that I want you to include. First of all, you should tell me where you travel to, when, how to get there, who to go with. And the key thing is that I want you to describe. You must describe about local people. And when you describe about local people, you describe about their personality and behavior. And then you describe about specialties, tourist attractions. It could be the dramatic landscape, or it could be the imposing building, the relic building, the ancient, the quaint old building. The quaint. This is the less common word you should use. quaint old building. I mean, some kind of building, very old, but it's beautiful in terms of the architectures and the color, for example. So if you got a chance to go to Hội An, that could be the place for you to find out a lot of quaint old buildings. Even in Ho Chi Minh City, you can find out some quaint old building. Quaint, this one. Adjective. Like Saigon Central Post Office, Supreme Court, the Museum of Fine Arts in District 1, the Museum of Culture in next to the zoo, for example. So that could be the one. Okay. So this is the formula for you to be included into your story. Now, let's look at the basic. Let me tell you one more thing. Hold on. Okay. So, due to the limit of time, I cannot tell you all things, but I really want to tell you about the people and the places, how to describe other people, how to describe other places, how to describe about the past experience. This is the thing I want to cover in this session, but we don't have much time, so let me make it quick about the people only. All right, if you look at the typical topics, you can see, look at the last questions. They have the similar question in the last one. They always ask you explain why or explain how you feel only. For example, here you got explain why he or she, how you feel, or explain why, for example. So that is the key question that you need to focus on. The other thing, just about the introduction. Now, in order to describe other people, you need to have the basic one like this one. When you describe other people, most of the time you focus on the adjective to describe about his personality, or the adjective to describe about his knowledge or talent or skill. You need to prepare some adjectives that you can use for a wide range of people. Here, I choose the word knowledgeable, talented, reliable, or trustworthy. I can use 3 of them to describe any kind of people. For example, get back to the sample. Describe a person whom you met at the first time made you happy. Okay, I can describe that person, and I was happy because he was completely knowledgeable. I was happy because, to me, after this first conversation, I have kind of reliability on him. For example, or the person who full of energy. That guy seemed to be very talented, always put his hand into a lot of things. And the second thing is that he's knowledgeable because he knows a lot of things, so he really wants to achieve a lot of outcomes. So he's always on the go. So you need to prepare some of the key adjectives to describe other people in general. And here are some of the phrasal verbs and the idioms that you can use to describe other people. So when you describe any kind of topic in part 2, think about 3 things. The keywords that we describe about a topic, I mean the topical vocabulary relevant to the topic. You need to find out several, maybe 2 or 3 phrasal verbs to describe. And then 1 or 2 idioms to describe about a relationship, for example. That runs in a family, for example. If you describe a family member, you can say, most people in my family seem to be very creative. I guess that runs in the family. I mean, everybody has the same thing, the same characteristic, the same personality. What I really admire my friend is that it's amazing that he knows everything inside out. He knows everything inside out. I mean, he's knowledgeable. So you need to prepare this one by yourself, accumulate more words after each topic described by the people, and day after day, you're going to be familiar with that. So, let me go straight to the template. You see, this is the template I tried to create in order to describe about the people. I got 6 key points. Key point number 1, all I need to do just paraphrase the topic. You asked me to describe a helpful person. I would say, when I pick up the cue card, or when it comes to describe a person and the helpful guy that I have ever met in my life so far, must be, should be. Some people put the word is only here. So far, is my best friend. But I advise you, don't use the word is. Use must be and can be, or should be. Because you really want to show to the examiner you know exactly how to use the modal verbs in a variety of situations. So modal verbs here sounds much better than to be here. And you can choose man, up, my, or respect, depend on the topic. And then I will jump into the second one immediately. The reason why I would like to share with you about this person today is mainly because he could show me some of the good things in both knowledge, behavior. And until now, we have been friends for over a decade, for example. So number 1, paraphrase the topic. Number 2, you have to say the reason why you really want to mention this guy, not the other guy, for example. Because this guy can show you some outstanding features in terms of personality, knowledge, even behavior or manner. It's up to you. You can choose any of them. And the next one, you have to describe by the context how you met him and the first impression, for example. You use some of the phrases like, if my memory serves me right, or as I remember vividly that I met him, I saw him, I bumped into him in on the first day of the middle school year, for example. A bunch of friends and die and so on. And just describe about a situation. Who involved into that context? But they are just the introduction. The key things here is number 4 and number 5. This is the key thing. You see, what I particularly admire him or her is, this is the noun clause, as I want you to use. And then you will use the first adjective to describe about his personality, and then you give the reason and example. And the way you show the reason and example is exactly the same like when you write an essay. Or the teachers in the class will show you, or any kind of tutor will show you how to present the reason. And then I will use the relative clause to introduce about the second point about a person. I mentioned about the knowledge, about talents, about a skill. Something else that I'm really interested in him is that. And then conclusion. In conclusion, in the topic described by the people, all you need to do just say what you learned from him, because he plays a role model to you. And then you should use about a future tense. And then you can use the if clause to propose about something. So if you look at my templates, let me show you about the grammar here first. Let's say about now, number 1, fluency and coherence. If you can say everything here, you got a fluency. Coherence, you shouldn't worry, because when I pick up the cue card, the reason why I would, if my memory serves me right, however, something else, conclusion. They are the linking devices to connect the ideas logically for you. Number 2, vocabulary. All you need to do, you need to put more explanation, and this is your part. And my advice for you is that you just need to put 1, 2, or maximum 3 sentences for each of number 4 and number 5. And that will be enough for you to cover in 2 minutes sharp No less, no more than. No less than, no more than. I need you to use the template and try to write out and then try to speak about that. I'm sure to you that you can cover in 2 minutes at least. So again, 1, 2, or 3 sentences to describe about one person, and 1 and 2 and 3 sentences to describe about one person. That would be enough for you to cover the time in part 2. About the grammar. Oh, I used the complex sentence here with when. I use modal verb here. I use relative clause here. I use present perfect tense here. I use some of the linking words, say about the reason here. I use some of the if clause here. I use the now clause here, the relative clause here. I use future tense here, for example. So basically, I use simple present here. So in my story, I do have simple present, simple past, simple future, present perfect tense, or even you can emphasize present perfect continuous tense. I also use relative clause, now clause, if clause, complex sentences. If you can use passive voice, that's the great thing. Put it more. I'm sure to you that you can get more point. So you can see in this template, I cover everything for you. All you need to do, just add a little more herbal plant to make it more fragrant, aromatic, more flavor and taste. And then there you go. So now let me get back to you to confirm if you understand about my main point when I offer you this template. Now I want you to show me your hands that you can basically understand my template and you can apply that into developing part 2. Okay. All right. So I think I don't have much time left to tell you a little more about this one, but I can give you maybe an example of what I prepare. It's a little bit too long because I really want to cover a lot of things. And if possible, I will send all of you guys later. You see, this is my example. I told you about my close friends. So I got, when you can pick up a cue card, so the blue one, they are the linking devices. The bold black one, they are the grammar and phrasal verb and idioms and vocabulary, all of them there. So it requires you don't need to speak too long like this one. For numbers 3, 4, and 5, each of the part, you just need to cover 2, 3, or maximum 4 sentences. That would be enough for you. So if you really need this kind of sample, I will send it to you later, guys. And if you want to apply for the places and past experience, I think I apply the same template. Let me show you. When I pick up the cue card, the reason why I would like to share with you, if my memory serves me right, however, what I was particularly really into, for example. So basically, I use the same template to talk about. And again, I do have 6 key points to cover any kind of topic in part 2. But because I don't have time, so I cannot show you how to apply for the next topic. Maybe next session, if I have a chance, I will show it to you. All right. So can I call it a day now? Call it a day. I mean, can I finish my session? Actually, it is still continue next time, if you can join me next time. And I really want you don't need to show me about your evaluation. Just tell me how much you understand and how useful information that you can gain today. I guess that the office already sent you the link so for you to give me the feedback. So please give me the feedback so that I need to improve something and make it a little bit simpler or easier for you to grab. And if we do have time, next time, we can practice right away. Okay, Đồng Nghi, you have a questions?
Yeah, hello, teacher. I have a question that should we tell? Should we tell two stories which are opposite of each one? For example, you have to tell about a memory trip. Should we tell the church a terrible trip with a wonderful trip, wonderful one, or should we just mention the good ones?
No, it depends on the topic. It depends on the topic you have to say.
Oh yeah, okay. But maybe the bad things will affect the feeling of the church.
No. It doesn't matter if you show the negative feeling or positive feeling, because last time when I took the exam, they asked me about the comic book and the effectiveness to the children. And at the time I think about manga and some of the sexes and bullying and violence, and I describe something terrible with the blood, for example, killing assassins. But it doesn't matter. After all, I got 8 points for speaking. As long as you do have vocabulary, the sufficient vocabulary to describe about that one and prove your main point. So it doesn't matter if you show the negative point.
I do think so. Thank you, teacher.
All right. Okay. In the chat box, we got the link. Would you please show me your feedback so that I guess I need to improve something more, make it simpler, shorter, or maybe I speak Vietnamese next time to you. Who knows?
Dear Mr. Tom, I have a question that should we write down our ideas when we practice speaking, and then we learn it by heart for each topic? Do you think it's an effective way to learn, or we just write down ideas and we practice speaking?
We don't write out the ideas as well. We just write out the keywords. For example, I'm sure to you that if you describe about a person, the context like who and where you met him, when you met him, and how you met him, the first impression, you don't need to write out anything, because I'm sure to you that you can tell them a story. But when it comes to the key point 4 and 5 to mention about a personality and characteristic, all you need to do is that just take note the adjective and sum up the keyword to explain that adjective, and sum up the phrasal verb to clarify, to give the reason why you think about that. But just the keywords, because at the time you can be flexible to use a variety of structures to speak to the examiner. It's different from writing. We don't need to have a very strict structure. So my advice, just write out the keywords and look at the keywords, because in your mind, when you think the ideas, you think about a keyword and you can speak it out. We don't have to think about a whole sentence. If you think about a whole sentence, it slows you down. So practice with keywords only.
Many thanks, Mr. Thom.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. All right. Any more questions, Guy? If not, please give me the feedback and then I will improve next time. Okay, can I call it a day? Yeah. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for your class.
Okay.
Goodbye, teacher. Have a nice day.
Mr. Thom.
Yeah. Have a good weekend, guys.
Thanks for your useful advice and sharing.
You're welcome.
Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend.
You too.